Welcome to English BookCast. We are diving deep today into a story you probably haven't heard.
That's right.
It's a fascinating one, though.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're looking at the book Aleixo Garcia, Exploration of Paraguay and Bolivia.
By Mario Monteiro.
That's right, by Mario Monteiro. And if you like learning about these kind of forgotten figures in history
And journeys.
and these incredible journeys, yeah, be sure to join our English BookCast channel and share our deep dives. It really does help the channel to grow and bring these stories to more people. So today what we're going to be looking at is this Portuguese explorer, Aleixo Garcia, and his journey into the heart of South America.
In the 1520s.
Yeah, so way before, like, a lot of the big names that you hear about with South American exploration.
That's right.
We're going to be looking at Monteiro's account. He did a lot of research, gathered all this evidence to try to bring to light Garcia's achievements. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a really good understanding of his significance and hopefully learn some surprising facts along the way.
Well, let's jump into it then. Monteiro himself, he almost didn't even publish this book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he talks about various disappointments and bitter hours. Almost made him stop publishing altogether. So what drove him to actually write about this guy, Aleixo Garcia?
Well, he says it was national pride. He really wanted to highlight what he calls incontestable national glory for Portugal.
He discovered it by happy accident.
By happy accident, that's right. It's very interesting how he phrases that. So, yeah, it was really important for him to do this for Portugal and for the Republic. And I think it's important to remember this was published November 10th, 1923 in Lisbon.
Right. So this is the historical context in which Monteiro is presenting this incredible journey.
That's right.
Now, it doesn't sound like Monteiro was just some, casual history buff. He was affiliated with some pretty serious institutions.
Yeah, he was a member of the Academy of Sciences of Portugal.
Impressed.
Yeah, and he was an honorary member of the National Athenaeum of Argentina, so clearly, pretty serious about his research and his writing.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that he was the author of many other works.
Oh, right. So this wasn't his first rodeo.
No, not at all. He was very versatile. He wrote verse, prose, even theater.
Yeah.
And a lot of his works were actually performed in Portugal and Brazil to very good success.
So when we look at Aleixo Garcia, Monteiro really emphasizes the explorer's fascination with South America, right?
Yeah, Monteiro says his perspective was romantic and curious. I imagine it would be, for someone from Europe at that time, to see these vast rivers like the Amazon, the Paraná, the Paraguay, just the sheer scale of it.
Oh, absolutely. Must have been mind-blowing. These waterways essentially become the arteries for exploration.
That's right, pathways to the unknown. That's what they represented, at least.
Yeah.
And hopefully to wealth, as far as the Europeans are concerned.
Of course, always the wealth. Now, speaking of wealth, Potosi comes up pretty early in the book.
Right. The mountain that sprouts silver. It's almost legendary, this place. And Monteiro really emphasizes the importance of this place, especially for the Incas. I mean, they clearly knew about it. He uses all kinds of sources to prove this point. The collection of unpublished documents, geographical relations of the Indies, which were firsthand accounts from Spanish explorers. He uses Alcedo's dictionary, the Hispano-American Encyclopedic Dictionary, and even Prescott's Conquest of Peru.
Wow, so this isn't just, a local legend. It was pretty well known, even to the Incas.
Yeah.
Even before the Spanish arrived.
Yeah, the Inca ruler, Huayna Capac, he knew about it.
Interesting.
And the silver, this wasn't just some untouched resource. Monteiro points out that the Incas were actively mining this stuff. Like, there's this hill called Porco, it's near Potosi, and it said that a lot of the silver that ended up in the Temple of the Sun in Cusco came from that mine.
So they were already extracting and using this wealth. It wasn't just sitting there waiting to be discovered. And then there are these other locations, Chocaca, the Chuquiaba Valley. Monteiro links those to the pursuit and even worship of precious metals.
Yeah, and Chocachaca, that's the original name of what we now know as Sucre in Bolivia.
Ah,
And
yeah.
Chuquiaba Valley, that's where La Paz is.
Gotcha.
And that was where the natives would worship this god of inexhaustible gold.
Oh, wow.
And there's even this belief among the Peruvian Indians that gold was like the tears of the sun.
That is a beautiful image.
It's poetic, isn't it?
It is.
And it really shows you how these cultures viewed these metals. They weren't just, money. They had a deep spiritual significance.
It's fascinating. And Monteiro, he goes on to talk about the historical significance of gold itself.
Oh, he goes way back, all the way to the alchemists. He
Right.
calls it the metal of metals, the most perfect metal. And he points out that it's often found in its pure state, naturally. Like, he saw it himself in the Passage mine in Brazil.
So it makes sense that it would be, one of the first metals discovered.
Yeah, and used. He even speculates that the earliest metal tools were probably made of gold.
Really?
He points to the descriptions in the Pentateuch. All those golden cups, bowls, incense burners, candelabra, it was all done by hammering. And even the tabernacle itself was covered in pure gold, according to those descriptions.
That's incredible.
It's pretty amazing, and you see the importance of gold even in the language.
Oh, like how?
Well, the Hebrew word zahab, it doesn't just mean gold, it means brilliant, radiant, something precious.
So it's more than just a material thing, it's a concept.
Exactly.
And Monteiro touches on the terms for gold in other cultures too.
He mentions the Roman aurum and the Greek expos. It just shows you how widespread this reverence for gold was. And he even talks about those ancient slag heaps in Spain, left over from Roman mining. One of them is now the foundation for a royal palace.
Wow, that's poetic justice.
It is.
So they were literally building on the remnants of ancient gold mining.
Yeah, it's a testament to how long this pursuit of gold has been going on. And Monteiro mentions these ancient chronicles talking about getting gold by fire.
Smelting.
Yeah, it seems like they knew how to extract gold from ore, even back then.
Yeah.
And then there's Pliny the Elder. He talks about how gold is so ductile that it could be spun like wool.
Come on now.
I know, it sounds crazy. But Monteiro says it's true. Apparently, the Empress Agrippina, she went to this mock naval battle wearing a cloak woven entirely from gold thread.
That's just showing off.
It is.
It's incredible, though.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just for show.
No, Pliny apparently complained that Romans were using too much gold in everyday objects. It shows you how plentiful it was.
At least for the wealthy.
Right. And they had fire gilding, which was like a precursor to galvanization, so they could make normal things look like gold. And it was even used in medicine. They'd make these elixirs with gold, thinking it had healing properties.
So this obsession with gold that the Spanish found in the La Paz Valley, it wasn't just some random thing. It was part of a long tradition.
That's right. A long tradition of fascination with gold. It's almost ingrained in us.
So let's talk about the Andes. Monteiro describes the Illimani Mountain beautifully.
10,000 meters high, snow-capped. It's just this huge, imposing peak.
And it took a long time to conquer, right?
Yeah, lots of attempts, even by famous climbers.
So it was no easy feat.
No, not at all.
But someone did finally reach the top, didn't they?
A German team in 1914. But at first, people didn't believe them. They were like, no way. But then the professors at the Jesuit College of San Calixto, they used their telescope and saw the German flag up there. So that was proof.
Okay, so confirmed. And Monteiro includes some of their account, right?
Yeah, he quotes from the climber's story. It sounds brutal, the cold, the thin air.
Must have been rough.
Yeah.
And the name itself, Illimani, it means something, doesn't it?
Eternal thing.
Fitting.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And it was venerated by the indigenous people, just like Isluga was for the Chileans and the sun for the Tupis, and they believed there was gold and silver inside it.
Of course they did. Every mountain hides treasure.
Right, it seems that way.
And then there's Lake Titicaca, just west of Illimani.
It's so important for the people of Peru.
In their history, in their mythology.
Yeah, and the Quechua legend says that's where the Incas originated, on the island of the sun.
I love that. The island of the sun.
It's such a powerful image.
What about the name Titicaca? Does that have a meaning?
Garcilaso de la Vega explains it. Titi means lead, and Caca means cliff or mountain range.
So mountain of lead.
That's right. And Monteiro talks about how deep it is, somewhere between 250 and 270 meters at its deepest point.
That's pretty deep, especially for a lake that high up. Doesn't it freeze over?
Well, it should. It's almost 13,000 feet above sea level. But it doesn't. Monteiro explains it's because of underground volcanic activity.
Oh, wow.
Keeps the water warm. And he even connects this to the earthquakes in La Paz, like the one that damaged the Tiahuanacuense Institute of Anthropology.
Yeah, interesting. The lake is actually divided into two, right?
Yeah, the Strait of Tequina splits it into Titicaca and Vinamarca.
I see. And there are loads of islands.
About 25.
Yeah.
And the Island of the Sun, the Island of the Moon, those are the most famous ones.
Of course. This whole area was a cradle for advanced civilizations long before the Europeans.
Oh, yeah. The Aymara people had this huge empire. It stretched from Colombia all the way down to Argentina.
Incredible.
And then they were defeated by Pizarro in the Spanish.
Right.
But we can still see their legacy in those ruins at Tiahuanaco and Tampu Tocco.
Right. The Incas, they came later, right?
Yeah, but they were influenced by the Aymara.
So they adopted some of their language and customs.
Yeah, kind of like the Romans did with the people they conquered.
Makes sense. And this is all tied to the story of Manco Capac and Mama Ocla. They're these legendary figures.
The founders of the Inca dynasty, and
Right.
they're connected to Lake Titicaca.
Right. And their influence spread, leading to the creation of the Tawantinsuyo Empire.
Exactly.
And the Desaguadero River, it flows out of Lake Titicaca.
The highest navigable river in the world. It's amazing.
It is.
And the Aymara have this myth about its origins.
Oh, tell me about it.
So it's about Viracocha, their main deity, and then this almost Christ-like figure, Tepaj or Tumpa. He was sent to redeem people, but they killed him.
That doesn't sound very Christ-like.
No, it's a bit different, but they threw his body into the lake, and then the Desaguadero River formed.
Oh, wow. So it's like a miracle.
It's tied into their beliefs, their spirituality.
And the Incas also saw the lake as sacred, right?
Very much so.
Tupac Yupanqui, he had a temple built on the lake.
Yeah, a grand temple to the sun, and the islands became places of pilgrimage.
Especially the Island of the Sun and the Island of the Moon.
Right.
And Monteiro mentions these large ships that sailed on the lake.
Some people even say they were brought from England in pieces.
No way.
That's what they say. It's hard to believe, but it shows how important this lake was.
Yeah, it must have taken a lot of effort to get there. What was the journey like from Cusco?
So they would go south through Siquani, Juliaca, all the way to Puno.
Puno, the main port on the lake.
Exactly. And then they'd sail across the lake to La Paz.
Must have been quite the journey.
Yeah, and Monteiro mentions these sudden storms that would come up on the lake.
Oh, right. So it wasn't always smooth sailing.
Definitely not. And near the Temple of the Sun, there were other temples dedicated to thunder and lightning.
So they worshipped the forces of nature as well.
That's right. And then there were these houses for virgin priestesses.
Like the Vestal Virgins in Rome?
Yeah, or the Druids. They had to keep a fire burning, and if they broke their vows, they were severely punished.
Sounds pretty strict.
Very strict. But there is this one famous exception.
Oh, tell me.
The story of Quizi and Olente.
I love that story.
It's a great story. It's about this princess who breaks all the rules to marry the man she loves.
True love conquers all.
Exactly. And Monteiro talks about how Capet and his wife used these straw rafts on the lake.
Like the ones they still use today.
Yeah, with those distinctive straw sails.
That's incredible. That tradition has continued.
It's amazing. And the lake is still sacred today.
People still make pilgrimages to Copacabana.
Every year. And it's this mix of Aymara and Cholo traditions.
Cholo, that refers to people of mixed indigenous and European ancestry.
That's right. And there's music, dancing, they drink local spirits. It's quite a spectacle.
It sounds like it. And the sanctuary of Copacabana itself has a long history.
Oh, yeah, it goes back to 1583. And it was a big rivalry with the Dominican temple in Pomada.
So there was some competition there.
Definitely. And then there are these local legends like the Devil's Pulpit on Titicaca.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
It's pretty spooky. It just adds to the mystique of the place.
For sure. And beyond the lake itself, there are all sorts of Inca ruins.
Yeah, and those volcanic rock formations they call the Inca's Force.
Sounds ominous.
It does. It makes you think about their beliefs, their power.
Makes you wonder what else is out there.
Definitely.
And Monteiro, he draws a comparison to Mayan deities, too.
He mentions Papatil, the sun god, and Apocatelt, this talking god,
A talking god.
that supposedly had an oracle.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's like they're trying to connect with the divine. And he talks about other lakes in the area, like those artificial lagoons in Potosi.
the ones built by Viceroy Toledo.
Yeah, to power the silver mines.
It's incredible what they achieve.
It is. And Monteiro quotes Father Antonio Vieira. He laments the fate of the miners in Potosi.
It must have been brutal work.
It was.
And then there's the legend of Coricancha, the House of Gold in Cusco.
Yeah, and Monteiro says similar legends were told about places near Lake Titicaca.
Stories of hidden treasures. It's all very alluring, isn't it?
It is. He even quotes verses about the wealth of the islands.
It makes you want to go searching yourself.
It does. And Monteiro talks about the different indigenous tribes, like the Charcas Indians.
Who are they?
They lived between Misque and Lake Titicaca. They spoke Aymara,
Okay.
and they were pretty warlike. They even used their enemies' skulls as drinking cups.
Yikes. That's pretty gruesome.
Yeah, a bit different from our customs. But they were also skilled metal workers. They made things out of gold, silver, copper.
And they had their own gods.
Yeah, they had Can, who made the earth fertile,
Okay.
and they worshipped the sun, the lake, the mountains, the storms.
Powerful forces.
Exactly.
And then you have the Caracarais,
They were a big deal. They were the lords of Porco and Potosi.
the silver mines.
That's right. They were known as fierce warriors, and they were wealthy in times of peace. And because of that, the Guarani people, they started calling all Peruvians Carazares.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they would travel all the way to Alto Peru, which is basically Bolivia, to get metal blades for their diadems.
They're real valuable.
Very valuable. And the Caracarais, they were mentioned alongside other important tribes like the Chimeneos and Candires.
So they were a force to be reckoned with.
Definitely. And even the name for the Pilcomayo River in Guarani, Araquay, means water from the land of the wise.
Referring to the Caracarais.
Yeah, they had a reputation for wisdom.
I see. So you had these mountains, the Andes, mountains of copper, they called them.
Yeah, and stories of this white king, the Inca, with all his gold.
And the Caracarais, Potosi, Coricancha, Cusco, all these names, these places that were whispered about.
And it all fueled this desire to explore, to find these riches.
It's like a siren song.
It is. It's irresistible. And eventually, those whispers reached the Europeans on the Paranaguasu.
The Rio de la Plata, the River of Silver.
The name says it all. They knew there was wealth to be found.
But getting there, that was the challenge.
Yeah, because to go west from the Spanish settlements, they had to cross this vast territory, the land of the Mbayes.
The Gran Chaco.
That's right. And Monteiro describes it as this huge plain, almost featureless, with no navigable rivers to speak of.
So it was a serious
A
obstacle.
massive obstacle. He even thinks it was once the seabed of an ancient sea.
Really?
That's his theory. It was just this harsh, empty land.
Did it have any value at all?
Well, the land itself was fertile. There was cotton, sugarcane, tobacco, all kinds of valuable plants. But without rivers, it was almost impossible to settle, to really exploit those resources.
It was just too difficult to get around.
Exactly.
So what about rivers? Were there any at all?
There were a few that flowed down from the mountains. The Bermejo, the Pilcomayo, the Parapiti. They weren't reliable. They would flood in the rainy season and then dry up completely in the dry season.
Oh, right.
It was a constant struggle.
And the Paraguay River that flows south.
Yeah, toward the Rio de la Plata.
Monteiro quotes Dr. Manuel Dominguez, a Paraguayan historian, about the Chaco.
He says that crossing the Chaco twice is harder than sailing around the world.
Yeah, that's saying something.
It is. But the lure of Potosi, that silver mountain, it was just too strong.
People were willing to risk their lives for a chance at that wealth?
They were. And it was the Guarani people who spread the word about this wealth to the Europeans.
The ones on Uramiram, the island we now call Santa Catarina?
Right. And these Europeans, they were the survivors of Juan Diaz de Solis' expedition.
Oh, the guy who discovered the Rio de la Plata.
That's the one. He called it the Sweet Sea.
And then he was killed by the Charus.
Killed and eaten, unfortunately.
A tragic end.
It was. But his discovery, it opened up this whole new area for exploration.
So these survivors, they're on Santa Catarina, and they're hearing these stories.
Stories about silver, gold, a white king, the Caracarais, all these legends passed down from tribe to tribe. And among these listeners, there was Aleixo Garcia.
A Portuguese adventurer.
And some historians believed he was a companion of Amerigo Vespucci.
Wow, so he was connected to the very beginning of European exploration in the Americas.
That's right.
And he took it upon himself to find these riches.
He did. He gathered 4 companions and set off around 1524.
That's bold. Just 5 men going into the unknown.
Very bold.
Where'd they go?
First, they went through Santa Catarina, then to the Paraná River, and then west into Paraguay.
Following the same path as Alvar Nunes Cabeza de Vaca. Exactly.
And Garcia, he was fluent in Guarani and Charrua.
That was a huge advantage.
Oh, absolutely.
They crossed the Serra de Santa Lucia, or maybe the Serra de Es Fernando, depending on which account you read.
And then he went into the Piedra de los Mbayes.
Which was a dangerous place.
Well, a fierce tribe.
It was. But he was determined to reach the Charcas region.
The land of the Silver Mountain.
That's right. And when he reached the Chinese's people, he made friends with them.
Smart move.
He gave them gifts.
And the Chineses, they were enemies of the Caracaras.
Yeah, so Garcia was playing the political game.
It was strategic.
Very strategic.
Yeah.
And he also made friends with the Tarapacosis.
Another allied tribe.
So he was building a network of alliances.
So did he actually make it to the Inca Empire?
Well, Guzman says he did. He says Garcia reached the Peruvian Cordilleras, the Andes Mountains.
Wow.
And he even raided towns beyond Presto and Tarabuco.
That's deep into Inca territory. It is. Antonio Correa da Costa, he thinks Garcia went down the Miranda River to the Paraguay and then overland past the Ipane, Aquitaban, and Apa rivers.
Quite a journey.
A massive journey.
And Garcia, his ambition was to find the source of this legendary wealth.
He wanted to seize the treasure.
But it was a dangerous undertaking.
Oh, incredibly dangerous. He was going into a land where he only had vague information.
Information from Solis's men.
That's right. And they said there were cannibals there.
So he was really risking his life.
He was, but he kept going, overcoming every obstacle.
And did he find what he was looking for?
It seems like he did. He returned with gold and silver,
What?
but on his way back, he was ambushed.
By the Payagua Indians.
Yeah, and they killed him.
Another tragic end.
It's a pattern, isn't it? These early explorers, they took huge risks.
And many of them paid the ultimate price.
They did. And it's sad, because Portugal lost out on Garcia's discoveries.
They didn't capitalize on it.
No, they didn't. But the news of his success spread.
And it fueled more expeditions.
It did. People were drawn to the possibility of wealth.
So Monteiro makes a strong case for Garcia being the first to really explore Paraguay.
He says Garcia deserves priority in the conquest of those lands.
And not just Paraguay, but Bolivia, too.
Yeah, he says Garcia was the first European to explore significant parts of Bolivia. And the Charcas Indians, they were so worried about him that they started arming themselves.
They even built more fortresses.
Beyond the ones Huayna Capac had built.
So they saw him as a real threat.
They did.
Now, Monteiro, he didn't just rely on secondhand accounts. He did his own research.
Oh, yeah. He talks about this document he got in 1916.
Gave him permission to travel all over South America.
To gather more information about Garcia.
Impressive dedication.
It is. And he lists all the things Garcia brought back.
Like indigenous clothing, vases, silver crowns.
Proof that he'd been to these incredible places.
And it confirmed the existence of the Inca Empire.
The White King, the silver mines, it was all real.
It's fascinating.
It is. And Garcia, he also tried to contact his fellow Europeans.
While he was in Paraguay.
Yeah, he sent some Chinese's Indians to Santa Catarina.
To find Henrique Montes and Melchior Ramirez.
His former companions from the shipwreck.
He even sent them silver.
2 or 3 arrobas of silver. That's a lot. And he sent them letters telling them about his success, inviting them to join him.
He wanted to share his discoveries.
Yeah, and maybe establish a Portuguese presence there.
It's interesting to think about the timeline here.
What do you mean?
Well, Santa Catarina is usually considered to have been discovered in 1515 and colonized in the 17th century.
Right.
But Garcia was already living there in 1516.
Way before the official colonization?
Exactly. And Luis Ramirez, he wrote about how Montes and Ramirez sent gold and silver to this captain, D. Rodrigo de Acuña.
Yeah, but it was lost at sea. The boat carrying it sank.
That's tragic.
It is. And Garcia himself, he died before his companions could even reach him.
Killed by the Guarani.
Ambushed and killed. And they took all the riches he was carrying.
And then eaten, according to some accounts.
Yeah, it's brutal. And years later, Alvar Nunes Cabeza de Vaca, he was looking for Garcia's son.
Why?
He wanted him as an interpreter.
Because he knew both Guarani and European languages.
Exactly.
And Monteiro uses a lot of different sources to support his argument.
He really does. He cites Luis Ramirez's letter, Diego Garcia's memorial, Sebastian Cabot's declarations, Alvar Nunes's commentaries, Irala's letters.
He's leaving no stone unturned.
He's very thorough, and he debunks these claims that Garcia returned to Brazil or that he was working for Martim Afonso de Souza.
So he was acting on his own initiative.
That's right.
And Santa Catarina, it played a crucial role in spreading the news of Garcia's discoveries.
It was a key port for ships going south, and because Montes and Ramirez were there, they told everyone who passed by about Garcia's journey.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, and it reached other explorers, like Francisco de Chaves, Gonzalo de Acosta, Rodrigo de Cua.
And they all knew about Garcia.
And even the indigenous people, they were talking about him.
So his story was spreading far and wide.
It was. And it had a big impact on other explorers.
Like Sebastian Cabot.
Yeah, he was on his way to the Spice Islands, but when he heard about Garcia, he changed course.
He went to Santa Catarina instead.
He was looking for the golden fleece, as Monteiro puts it.
Drawn by the promise of wealth.
Just like everyone else. And Pizarro, he'd already been to Peru.
And brought back silver.
Loads of silver. And when he went back to Spain, it caused a sensation.
Everyone wanted a piece of the action.
That's right. And the Spanish crown, they appointed Don Pedro de Mendoza as adelantado of the Rio de la Plata.
So they were serious about colonizing this region.
They were, and Martim Afonso de Souza, he also set off with an expedition.
Officially to Brazil, but
But people suspected he was really after Garcia's discoveries.
it was a race for riches.
It was. And Mendoza, he sent Juan de Ayolas to find the Sierra de la Plata.
Using a guide who had been with Garcia.
Yeah, and Ayolas disappeared.
Another one lost to the unknown.
It's a dangerous business, this exploration.
It is. And Irala? He took over in Asuncion.
And Alvernunez Cabeza de Vaca? He was exploring too.
And Nuno de Chavez, he reached the Guape River.
Only to find the Spanish were already there.
It's like the dominoes were falling. One discovery led to another and another.
It's a chain reaction, and it's all thanks to Garcia.
He started it all.
He did, and it's sad to think he died before he could really enjoy his success.
Killed by the very people he was trying to learn from.
It's ironic, isn't it?
And Mendoza, he died at sea.
Yeah, a lot of these early explorers, they